Good morning and happy Friday, traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Friday, November 8th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great afternoon, a great evening, ready for another day here in the market that, well, starting off to be maybe just a little bit on the uncertain side. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. Asian markets mostly lower last night, with Australia being up 0.84%, the Nikkei up 0.31%. Then we start into some of those negatives. South Korea was down, India was down, Hong Kong down a whopping 1.07%, so falling pretty hard there, and Shanghai lower, down 0.53%. Now, if we take a look at European markets, they were nice and bullish yesterday. Not feeling the same way this morning. The DAX is down 0.89% or 170 points. The FTSE is down 0.94% or 7660 right now, and the CAC being down 0.93% or 69 points lower here this morning. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. U.S. futures are also lower this morning, with NASDAQ leading the way. The NASDAQ's down 63 points or 0.30%. S&P 500 futures are essentially flat, down just $7.50, and the Dow futures the same, being down just $4 at the moment here this morning as we're waiting on earnings reports to roll in. If we take a look at bonds this morning, now bonds are moving down here just a little bit this morning after the Fed rate cut, which is a good thing. But the 2-year bond at 4.17%, the 10-year bond is hanging in there at 4.30%, and the 30-year bond still up over 4.5 at 4.51%. So we still have this little bit of concern here on the bonds, and it is kind of interesting how bullish the market has been with bonds being so elevated here. If we take a look at oil prices here this morning, well, we got oil moving just a little bit lower here this morning. We've got oil down 1.12%. Or at 71.53 a barrel. There we go. Brent is down 69 cents a barrel at 74.94 a barrel, down 0.91%. If we look at the natural gas, well, UNG is trying to bump back up here just a little bit, but this has been a pathetic trade here. This just ugly chart, making new lows. Maybe it'll start finding a bottom here soon. We'll be watching for that. But for now, natural gas is down up 3 cents here on the day. Now, precious metals had a really rough week here with a lot of volatility. Gold making a big fall here, but yesterday bounced back pretty strongly, and this morning also down just a little bit. Right now, gold futures are down $4.10 an ounce, so kind of keep an eye on that, maybe trying to stabilize here along a little bit of price support. If we take a look at silver, silver is also pushing lower here this morning after a big push up yesterday. Copper's down, platinum's down, and palladium's down here in the market. But if you take a look at copper, take a look at COPX, big pop there yesterday, really stretching up, kind of surprising, pulling back, giving that whole thing up yesterday from that big push. So watch that carefully. Kind of an interesting situation with so much volatility here in the metals. So watch those close. And then if we take a look at crypto, well, crypto was down pretty substantially yesterday, turned around, got into the green by the end of the day, and now this morning back down just a little bit, down $444 a coin. Ether is up $28 a coin, and other than that, most of them are in the red this morning. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in and buckle up? Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Let's take a look at these charts. Let's take a look at them without a bias and make sure we're taking a look for the charts as what they are, not for what we want them to be. So first off, when we take a look at the diamonds here, you can see we've made a big push here, just leaving a massive gap behind on the election. I'm honestly kind of surprised to see how big the market reacted here, because we know we still got about 70 days before even the inauguration, so there's really no policy change that's going to happen here. But if you'll notice here in the market, this break higher and a rest or pullback here in the market would set up the next opportunity to the upside. And I think having been up so substantially, a little rest in the market, nobody would be too surprised to see that occur. And it could come in a couple ways. We could either go sideways here or a pullback. And I think if a pullback started, the point move to the downside could be potentially large, so make sure you're planning your risk carefully here in the market. If the bulls, however, find inspiration in the data today, well, every reason to believe we can break on up and see more blue sky highs in that chart. That would be no problem at all. If the bears were to find inspiration today, well, first I think a pushback into here, maybe testing this low and then coming on back down into this support. Breaking down below there would raise a little bit of concern, but remember, this is a massive gap to the upside, and we can certainly find support in any of these places along the way and bounce up and still have a very healthy condition here in the diamonds. If we take a look at our SPY, well, SPY stretching to the upside here, as you can see, nice and bullish in the market. Really feeling some pressure in here yesterday from big techs that were soaring and pushing back up yesterday. And I think it might be a little bit of corporate buyback activity finally picking up in those techs, helping those out. So new record highs in the SPY once again, and you can see this morning we got just a little bit of bearishness in here, maybe a little fade could come in. So if the bulls can find inspiration today, we need to break out of that high up there and see if we can stretch on through to blue sky highs. But if the bears were to have anything to say today, a little pullback in here, we might test this low. If that low breaks, we might come on down and fill that little gap here on the SPY to catch the top of that candle. And then beyond that, might raise a little bit of a concern in the market if we were to stretch all the way back down to this area of price support. But remember, this is still a very bullish chart, very strong looking chart. And at the moment, there's no signs that we're going to break this back down. If we take a look at QQQ, well, QQQ, another one with multiple gaps here left behind in the chart. So if the bulls can find inspiration here on the day, push on through. And remember, Fridays have been one of those days that everything is possible, where the bulls just race into the market. Well, let's see if that happens again today, and blue sky highs possible in the QQQ. Now, if the bears get going and we want to pull this back a little bit, then look for the low of this candle first, and then of course breaking down below there, let's look at the gap in here that could be filled, and then maybe a comeback in here to this breakout high. You can see that wouldn't be all that big a deal for that to occur. Now, breaking down below there might raise a little bit of concern, but remember, we've got a really good price support in here. So if we came back into here, might be a little bit uncomfortable for anyone who raced in here the last couple of days. But that being said, I don't think it would be catastrophic at all. It could be some big point moves, but not catastrophic for the technical patterns of the chart. If we look at the Russell, let's take a look at IWM. Now, IWM pushing up here pretty dramatically in the chart. Pushing through, you can see we've got a little resting pattern up here in that chart, and if the bulls can find inspiration here, this is where we could really get some work done on this. If we could push on those bulls, push up through this area, well, we could stretch up here. This happens to be the all-time high in IWM up here. So if we could push up into there and then break out, we've got all 4 indexes in breakout territory. So watch carefully if the bulls can grab a hold here. Now if the bears were to have something to say here, maybe a pushback down, we might come down this far, test that area of price support in the chart. And remember, that's a strong area of price support in here. So we could look at that area here for some price support. If we were to fall below there, it might raise a little bit of concern because we left such a big gap behind. We could see a pretty substantial pullback in that case in IWM, but you'll want to remember we're still in an upside trend. So far, even with pretty substantial pullbacks, it doesn't really break the technicals here of the charts. Let's take a look at our VIX. Boy, the VIX has just dropped hard here on the day, on this week, just really pounding lower here, as you can see, breaking this upside trend that we had going in here, breaking multiple levels of price support, and it looks to me like we're resting right in here and may have that opportunity to come all the way back down into this area of the chart to test some of these levels if those bulls continue with this strong push to the upside. Now, if the bears were to have any kind of inspiration today and push back up, we might push back up a little bit. We could test some resistance right in there of yesterday's candle, and if that were to break, then maybe that possibility we could come on up and start filling some of this gap here with a big push to the downside. That certainly looks like a possibility, but again, I don't think it breaks any of the technicals here in the chart. Remember, just coming back up to retest this trend break right in here wouldn't be any big deal at all. If we take a look at our T2122, kind of interesting yesterday, because what T2122 is telling us is that although we were extremely bullish in the market, we actually had just a few more stocks selling than going up yesterday. So it really was very centered into the tech sector, making that big push. So if we take a look here, we have, if the bulls find inspiration, yesterday's little rest in here gives us opportunity to push this back up into that bearish reversal zone here in the chart. However, if the bulls, if the bears find inspiration here, well, we certainly have opened up a pretty good downside opportunity if they were to have something to grab a hold on. I don't know what that would be at the moment, but watch carefully. Just a little profit-taking wave pullback could make pretty substantial move. And then if we take a look at our T2108, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, you can see yesterday just ever so slightly up, pretty much flat here on the day. Again, pretty much tech centric. But as you can see, we've pushed well above the 50% area here on the chart. We're dealing with some price resistance up in this area and a little bit of a downtrend. So if the bears do have something to say today, a push back into here probably holds around that 50% area, and no particular worries if that were the case. And if we continue on higher, well, we're going to push up here to these areas of the chart where we get a little bit on the frothy side here in T2108. We'll want to watch that once we start reaching up here toward about 70. Now, if we take a look at T2107 also ending the day pretty much flat here yesterday. So again, although we had a big push in the indexes, we really didn't get a lot accomplished in the market itself. But we are testing this resistance up here, so you got to give that to the bulls. This is a major change here in the market, and certainly a lot of celebrating going on here in the market as a result of the election. So if we take a look in here and we see those bulls continue to push, breaking through here could be substantial. And remember, in T2107, when we kind of push up here into these mid 65 areas, we're getting very, very frothy, and we usually see a pullback. So watch that carefully. Now, if the bears have something to say here today, breaking up here, we've got a good support area down in here around 56. So push down into there wouldn't create any worries or concerns at all. And then if we take a look at our T20-101, T20-101 had that little bit of breadth increasing yesterday. So it is nice to see when the bulls are pushing to the upside that breadth is following. And I got a sneaky suspicion what we probably saw is corporate buybacks yesterday in the tech sector, pushing those stocks up. Because remember, those corporate buybacks that these folks put out are just massive, absolutely massive buybacks of stock. So contributing to the breadth here, even when the market is maybe wavering on a little bit of a rest or a profit-taking pullback. So keep an eye on that today. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we don't have a whole lot here to worry about. We're going to get a consumer sentiment number, and certainly that can move the market. Looking at that, they're looking, however, for it to come in just a little bit improved at 70.8, up from 70.5. So I don't see that, if it comes in anywhere close to that creating any kind of turmoil in the market. Then we're going to have some Fed speakers out here, so keep an eye on that. They're coming out from under their blackout period, and a Baker Hughes rig count, which I think we're going to largely ignore on the day. When it comes to earnings, we do have quite a few earnings here today. Let me run through just some of those. I don't think I'll probably have time to run through all of those. Whoops. There it is. Here's our earnings for the day. There is no blog today, by the way, guys. No blog Friday, but you can see in here we've got several reports coming in. Not exactly the kind of reports that are really going to move the market substantially, and they are all before the bell today. There's no notable reports in the afternoon after the bell today. So kind of keep that in mind here. So take a screenshot of that for those earnings reports this morning. Give a second here for you to be able to take that screenshot. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful to your trading, helpful for your day, I'd really appreciate it if you could click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel a lot, helps it to continue to grow. I apologize, I didn't get to answering those questions yesterday. I will be back on task today. So thank you everyone who does take the time to do it. And remember, even an emoji counts. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. These are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market, and remember to follow your rules and your guidelines. You should never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. So first off, let's take a look at a few of these charts that may be coming around and showing some bullishness here in the market. First off, let's take a look at some of these earnings reports here recently. Datadog reporting those earnings yesterday, and really didn't get much of a move out of the earnings reports, but I got to tell you, this still is holding up in a very bullish pattern. If you look right across here, little consolidation, so a little upside triangle here, as you can see. So any rest or consolidation in here, I still see that opportunity with the bullish move in the market. We could push on up and attack this recent high up here, and maybe even push on through to new record highs here in Datadog. So keep an eye on that. You guys know I've been talking about Bumble here a lot, and it finally got to its earnings, and that got it going here to the upside. Looking at Bumble, there was my alert in the chart, pushing it up here. It didn't get a great response in the earnings, but watch this carefully. If this now rests just a little bit, whoops, I didn't want to grab that line. If this wants to rest just a little tiny bit in here and come back out toward this trend, that sets up the next opportunity for the upside. So a little resting pattern in here. Look for that upside. This is in a very bullish round and bottom breakout pattern. Upside target probably up here around the 200-day, at least on that initial move. So keep an eye on that. Boy, when you look at Carvana, my goodness, Carvana it's just been up and up and up this year. Very, very strong chart. Continues to look very bullish. It is getting a little bit of consolidation, a little bit of rest in here. So let that rest once again back out here toward this trend, and then look for that next opportunity to the upside in Carvana. Looking pretty good overall. Now there's some stocks out there that don't look so good, but international paper is not one of them. As you can see, nice big push here to the upside in international paper, resting back here just a little bit. Let's go to a longer term, a weekly in here. You can see we might come into this price support here in the chart and just rest a little bit, and then we have that opportunity that this could push on through to some highs here in international paper. So one of those old boring defensive sector stocks that's doing pretty darn well. But when we take a look at things like Hershey, oh my goodness, Hershey not doing well. Chocolate, people apparently are restricting their purchasing right now. We are seeing effects from the higher inflation problems, and not really the inflation, but just the fact that consumers are kind of running out of capital here, and pushing that down. And even things like TAP Molson had a pretty ugly move on its earnings, but what's interesting is it came right back. So coming right back in that chart, you want to watch this pretty closely for that opportunity here on, and this is called a belt hold pattern. And if that belt hold can continue to hold, they tend to be a very bullish pattern. It means that the buyers are rejecting that earnings and rejecting the news on the day on that, and that potential push back to the upside looks like an opportunity here. I can't say the same for things like Coke really falling apart. Things like PepsiCo really falling apart here in the market. Monster, on the other hand, holding up pretty well, even though it did move lower here on its earnings. It's been holding in this little resting pattern in the chart. So some of our defensive sector stocks not looking so good. And that's pretty common when we get really bullish like this, because everyone tosses into the tech sector, and these stocks begin to suffer. So watch those closely. If we take a look at some other areas of the market, take a look at Disney. Disney made a really nice push here on the election results, pushing up, and you can see breaking through finally this resistance here in the chart. So a little bit of rest in here the last 3 days, last 2 days I should say, after the gap up, resting in here. This might slide itself right on out here toward this trend. Might also pull back a little bit if the market sees some bearishness coming in, but I'd look for that next upside opportunity here in Disney, and maybe stretching on up there to that 200-day moving average at least, if it can get some things going here in the market. Roku, on the other hand, I think Roku could be setting up short. If you take a look right in here, we've got a big resistance area here. We've failed on our earnings, rallying back to our 50-day. This is a pattern that we call the blue ice failure. And that blue ice failure looks like it has an opportunity to push us on down. So I would keep an eye on Roku. I think there might be a potential in there for a short. Let's take a look at some other things. Sony having a big upside move here as gaming seems to be really picking up. In fact, they improved their guidance. Sony really pushing up here this morning. Watch that carefully. We might break through some resistance here in this chart and push on through. So keep an eye on Sony. That's looking pretty darn good. Take a look at Cisco. Cisco here today. This is a very bullish chart pushing up in here. and trying to push again yet this morning. So a little bit of maybe a little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation in here might be due. I'm going to change this trend. I'm going to grab this area and go here on this trend. So that would put just a little bit of resting consolidation possible in this chart, maybe even a pullback to trend. But then I'd look for that next opportunity to the upside. Looking really good there on that chart. So there's a few stocks for you to look at today, a few things going on. Hey, I want to wish everyone a fantastic day, and I want to wish you a great weekend as well. Be careful, be safe, have a great one. I'll see you right back here bright and early Monday morning for another wild week of price action. Y'all take care, be safe, have an awesome, awesome day.